All right. Just wanted to talk about WWE Raw, the episode from January 5th, 2026. What went on and my reaction to it. I mean, to me, I thought this show was like a massive disappointment. I mean, for weeks, they had plugged this show like this was supposed to be this really big freaking deal. You know, they were even insinuating that Chris Jericho, his contract had recently ended with All Elite Wrestling, and they were implying that, you know, he had been rehired by WWE and he was going to show up on this show. You know, they had a video promo by Raw General Manager Adam Pearce insinuating that Chris Jericho was going to be on the show. Well, surprise, surprise, none of that ever happened, okay? And they were doing this big tie-in. They were talking about it for weeks, okay? The WWE Raw, we're going to do this tie-in with the show Stranger Things, which is now in its 5th season. So they made it sound like, okay, we're going to have this big time of the show, and we're going to make it sound like they were going to have like storylines based on the Stranger Things, like, you know, TV series, you know, Netflix series rather. And like none of that ever happened. It's like they had like a Stranger Things like set like built for it, but it's like I don't know, like it's like you wonder like what really fell through here. It's like there was no actors or actresses from Stranger Things on the show. There was no weird storylines like, you know, on the show that you would think they would have had based on that, based on what they were saying about this. So you don't know really what happened. It makes you wonder what all fell through here. It's like the only time it seems like Michael Cole and Corey Graves even referred to the show Stranger Things was kind of like towards the beginning. Like Corey Graves was on their set talking about, hey, you know, we're on the set of Stranger Things, so God only knows what weird things are going to happen tonight. Well, you know, nothing weird happened other than a bunch of bull. You know, like as you've come to expect on Raw. I mean, it was a really crummy show. And then to make it even worse, here they are. They have NXT wrestler Javon Evans. He signs a contract to be on WWE Raw, and they don't even air that on the show. Apparently, like international feeds, like in some like other countries, they showed it, but in the United States, it was never shown. They never even mentioned it. You think, okay, well, they should at least talk about that, you know, okay, after they came back from commercial or whatever. But no, it was never even mentioned, you know, which is absolute bull. It makes you kind of like, you know, think, geez, I guess they're not going to do much with Javon Evans' career or something like that. You know, apparently they don't think he's worth mentioning that he became a member of the Raw roster that night. I mean, and the commercials have gotten absolutely out of hand here. I mean, I pay $19.05 a month for the commercial-free version of Netflix, and I watched the show from I started watching it at 9:30, so instead of the 8 p.m. start time. But even still, it still forced me to watch all the commercials. You can't fast forward through them. It seemed like every 5 minutes of this freaking show, the show went on commercial break. You know, it's like you got matches that had 3 commercial breaks during them and stuff. Completely kills the freaking momentum of the show. I will never freaking watch this damn show again during the freaking live feed. I mean, I'll have to do what I did before, okay? Just don't watch it until after the live feed is over, because otherwise, every 5 freaking minutes, you got to go on commercial break, you know? This is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, give me a freaking break. It's bad enough I gotta pay $70 freaking a month to watch this freaking content that ain't even any freaking good, and then to be dealing with this shit on top of it. It's absolute bullshit. So anyway, I just figure I'll just vent a little of my frustrations with this stuff. You know, the way they treated Javon Evans right there. That guy, I mean, he's a great wrestler. I mean, always like seeing his matches on NXT. They can't even be bothered to freaking acknowledge him. I mean, I can see it. Now, I could see if they did that to me. If I was a WWE employee, they'd do something like that to me and stuff. They'd be like, oh, well, who gives 2 shakes of a rat's ass about that guy? I mean, yeah, I could see them doing that to me. But to do it to Javon Evans, give me a freaking break! Good Lord! Anyway, I'm getting a little riled up because I'm just tired of seeing the absolute bullshit on this show. You know, the prices to see this shit goes up more and more. And it's like, for what? Does the show get any better? Hell no, it doesn't! Anyway, let's talk about what was going on in this show here. First match. And that's another thing. A show that goes on 2.5 to 3 freaking hours, and it's only got 4 freaking matches. You know, I mean, were any of these matches particularly great? I didn't think so. Anyway, we'll go to the first match. It's a WWE Women's Tag Team Championship match, and we have Rhea Ripley and Io Sky going up against the current WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, Kairi Sane and Asuka. Well, I mean, they had a good match. It went on for about 16 and a half minutes. Rhea Ripley and Io Sky, they had a solid, decisive win and became the new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. Okay, good match there. Okay, fine. Now we come up to the next bullshit. All right, well, we got a segment right here. Sets up an upcoming match. We have Gunther comes out, acting like his usual asshole self, okay? AJ Styles comes out to confront him, and this will set up a match. I believe later in the show, General Manager Adam Pearce set up a match so that Gunther and AJ Styles will face each other next week. And let's see, we also had, next match where we have, this is a WWE Women's Intercontinental Championship match here. We're going to have a current Women's Intercontinental Champion, Maxine Dupree, that WWE has been trying to get over with the fans. They're trying to make people like her and everything. And they have her up against Becky Lynch, who, I don't know, she's playing the part of a heel. I never really cared for Becky Lynch as a heel. I'm sorry. I mean, I just, I'm like, come on, good Lord. And they're showing about how Maxine Dupree won the championship to start with. She's in there in a match against Becky Lynch, and she gets distracted because what should we call? Let's back up a little bit. Okay, Becky Lynch, she exposes the top turnbuckle. AJ Lee, who was rehired by WWE after being off the show for many years, she comes out because she thinks that's absolute bullcrap. And Becky Lynch gets distracted to the point where, by seeing AJ Lee coming out, and then because of Becky Lynch gets distracted by that, Maxine Dupree gains the upper hand, and she's able to win the Women's Intercontinental Championship. So now, fast forward to our match today, we have, this is like the third time that Maxine Dupree has gone up against Becky Lynch. Now, this match, oh my God, it was a terrible looking match, and at the end, it's like Maxine Dupree, she had Becky Lynch in this, ankle lock that looked awful. At least, say, Chad Gable and Kurt Angle, they could do realistic looking ankle locks, But unfortunately, this wasn't the case here. And Maxine Dupree had Becky Lynch in an ankle lock, and Becky Lynch, she kind of reversed it into this awkward looking pin, and she's holding on to the bottom rope, and it looks like the referee's clearly looking at Becky Lynch holding on to the bottom rope, but the referee counts the 3 count anyway, and Becky Lynch becomes the new WWE Women's Intercontinental Champion again. And you rewind it, and you look at it again, it looks like the referee clearly sees that Becky Lynch is holding on to that bottom rope the whole freaking time, and he counts the pin anyway. I mean, it's the kind of shit that makes you feel like you don't even want to watch this stuff anymore, I mean, I've seen matches like this in the past, and it made me not even want to watch any wrestling content at all for the next freaking, month and a half, And now I got a month and a half worth of garbage I got to freaking catch up on, Ugh. Anyway, so that's how that all went. Now, let's see what the heck else we got coming up. Well, now, like on SmackDown, on the January 2nd episode of SmackDown, they aired a promo for NXT wrestler Oba Femi, So they make it sound like he's either going to be very soon, Obafemi's either going to be signed to the Raw roster or the SmackDown roster. Don't really know because they're showing promos for him on both shows. All right, next segment we have the current WWE World Tag Team Champions, Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso, coming out. They really had nothing to say. I mean, it was just kind of almost seemed like an excuse to just play Jey Uso's theme song 3 times so everybody can do the yeet yeet dance and everything. And, so that happened there. Then we had the next segment that was WWE Women's World Champion Stephanie Vaquer, who's had the championship for the last 108 days. She comes out to do an interview. And then you have Raquel Rodriguez, who, in my opinion, she's probably the best of the women's wrestlers right now on the main roster because she's the most realistic looking one. And she goes and she beats down Stephanie Vaquer, who is currently injured. They talk about how she was injured in her triple threat match last week. She has an ankle injury. She's out there with a like an ankle brace on, like a walking boot right now. And Raquel Rodriguez, beats her down. And then, she gets brought to the backstage, and then Raquel Rodriguez, she's beating on her again. So I'm sure that's going to probably end up as a premium live event match in the future. And we have our next match is up next, and that is Lyra Valkyria with Bayley coming out versus Liv Morgan, who's in her first match in the last almost 7 months. I mean, she's been on this show since Survivor Series, but she hasn't been wrestling. But they have her back, she's dealing with a shoulder injury. And a lot of wrestlers dealing with shoulder injuries recently. We had Sheamus had a successful shoulder surgery recently, and I don't know if that injury that happened to B-Fab recently, that might be a shoulder injury. I'm not sure about that. Then we had Maya Yim, also known as Michin, maybe about a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, her having a shoulder injury. Dominic Mysterio, he's out with a shoulder injury. He'll be out for another maybe 3 to 4 weeks or something. It just seems like there's an awful lot of shoulder injuries. Penta came back from a shoulder injury. An awful lot of shoulder injuries going on in WWE right now. And anyway, Liv Morgan, she's back, after, recovering from a shoulder injury. So she's out there with Roxanne Perez. And in this match, Roxanne Perez, she interferes against Lyra Valkyria, which sends Bayley into a rage. She comes after Roxanne Perez with a steel chair, chases Roxanne Perez to the back. And Lyra Valkyria is distracted by all the chaos brought about by the fighting between Roxanne Perez and Bayley. She gets distracted, which that allows Liv Morgan to take advantage of that, and she ends up winning the match based on that. Then we have our final match. They got 28 minutes left in the show, and we have our World Championship match here against Braun Breaker out there with Paul Heyman, and he's going up against current WWE World Champion CM Punk. And this goes on quite a bit of time, and the first maybe 15 minutes or so, really not a whole heck of a lot going on. It's just a very slow moving, not as fast paced of a match as you would think, but the way they really plug how fast, how many miles per hour Braun Breaker can run and everything in the ring and everything. So you think it'd be it would be a lot more exciting than it is, but it's really not. It's not that great of a match. A lot of the matches just Braun Breaker having CM Punk trapped in a wrestling hold. I mean, it gets a lot better towards the end. Now, it does pick up a lot towards the end. They have some things towards the end where Paul Heyman causes a couple of outside distractions against CM Punk. The second distraction that Paul Heyman causes, CM Punk grabs Paul Heyman up on the ring apron, just punches him out. Paul Heyman falls to the floor. Then after that, we have wrestlers Austin Theory, Bronson Reed, and Logan Paul, all cohorts of CM Punk's opposition coming out, and they're all trying to come after CM Punk. But fortunately, Austin Theory interferes successfully against CM Punk, but CM Punk's able to fight off Logan Paul and also Bronson Reed. And then after that, Penta, Rey Mysterio, and Dragon Lee all come out and they fight off Austin Theory, Bronson Reed, and Logan Paul to the back. And there was a couple spots in this match where it's like it looked like, yeah, geez, either Braun Breaker or CM Punk, either one of these guys, their career could have been ended. Braun Breaker tried to do a Hurricanrana with CM Punk off the top rope. I mean, the problem with it was Braun Breaker went flying. CM Punk just stayed on the top rope. Braun Breaker ends up lying right on his head. He could have gotten a broken neck or a concussion or something like that. Fortunately, they said when medical checked him out after the match, he was okay. But, I mean, and then there was another spot in the match where CM Punk went flying through the ropes, landed right on his head on the floor, covered with the mat outside the ring. So, I mean, that could have been the end of the line for him, So I don't think there's been any official medical statement yet about if anything bad happened to CM Punk from that. So, but in the end of the match, CM Punk won a solid, decisive win with his finishing move, Go to Sleep. And that's the way that all ended. And let's see. Yeah, I mean, that was basically the show. And for as much hype as they put into this show, I really didn't think it didn't live up to the hype at all. I mean, no Chris Jericho on the show. I mean, they couldn't even be bothered to mention that Javon Evans had been signed to the Raw roster. I mean, it was just freaking nuts. You got two matches, I mean, the god-awful, match with, the Women's Intercontinental Championship match. That didn't do any good to put either one of those two wrestlers over at all. And the match, nobody seemed to care about the Liv Morgan versus the Lyra Valkyria match. I mean, it was just nuts. Anyway, your announcers for that show were Michael Cole and Corey Graves, who had been covering for Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett over on SmackDown the last 4 months. Well, now they're back to being the announcers of Raw, and now Wade Barrett and, Joe Tessitore will be back to announcing on SmackDown. And that's pretty much how all that went down. And I don't think there's anything else. If there was anything else I was going to say about that, don't think there was anything else that I can remember I was going to mention about that. Anyway, not a show I would bother watching. If you haven't seen it already, I wouldn't bother watching it. You really, honestly didn't miss anything. So, I mean, it got really rough in the CM Punk versus Braun Breaker match towards the end. That got pretty interesting and all that, but for the most part, the majority of the match wasn't really all that great. So, anyway, I'll catch you guys later on YouTube.